afternoon in BT Nation. It is a random afternoon, early evening pop up live here at NBT Nation. Great to see everyone. Just wrapped up the day job, and guess what? Never end. The work to support NBT Nation never ends here at NBT World Headquarters. Today's NBT Live, really cool framework, simple framework to help you organize the type of training you're planning, building, or delivering, to really understand the type of impact and outcome you're trying to achieve with whatever it is you're working on, and to really help you when you're partnering with senior leadership to understand which lever you're pulling to help them make the impact on top line metrics that keep them up at night. This very simple framework is going to help you really elevate and become, it's one more step in the process of becoming a certified no boring trainer. And we're going to dive into all of that right now here on today's NBT Live. Great to have everybody out there in NBT Nation. If you're jumping on, drop a line in the chat for sure. Let me know where you're at. Let me know if you've ever experienced horrible, awful, miserable, boring training, and what your role might be as a corporate trainer. But this simple framework is going to help you to, like I said, increase the impact of what you do as a corporate trainer, help you organize everything, and really help you to have much more productive conversations with senior leaders in your organization. And this framework is really born out of many years in the corporate training role, either unofficially or in my official capacities. I'm in the trenches every day, just like you, as a learning leader at a large organization, working with different companies across NBT Nation. And so I share this simple framework with you. So let's dive in, NBT Nation. Are you improving performance today, or are you building the organization for tomorrow? Very simple framework. Are you improving performance today, or are you building the organization for tomorrow? By thinking in those two buckets, you can do lots of different things to help your organization move forwards, to strengthen the company, to strengthen the team, to benefit the end customers, to really elevate yourself as a certified no boring trainer. So let's start unpacking it. If you're in a corporate training role, this is really going to help you. And certainly if you're in a leadership role, thinking, man, is my training really effective? This is going to help you really think about how you measure the effectiveness of that training. So are you improving performance for today or building the organization for tomorrow? Two very simple buckets to put your training in. So what does that look like in real life? Let's focus in, let's unpack how you improve performance today. Well, that's where all your onboarding programs live, right? You do onboarding to drive long-term retention of your team, to help them ramp more effectively, to protect the organization by tackling all the compliance level topics. Those compliance level topics obviously also protect your team, of course, but let's be honest, it's all about risk mitigation there. You're setting them up for success to get over their first day at school jitters. So when somebody new joins the organization, they put those first day jitters aside more quickly, feel more part of the team, they ease into their role more quickly, etc. How do you improve performance today? You do an effective onboarding program. You're going to see much more quick impact from your new hires. Now, certainly there's a long-term piece to that you're building for the future because you're driving retention. We can get a little pedantic about some of this, but if you want to start to see performance improvements today, build an effective onboarding for your new hires so that they're more effective today and they get more effective in a shorter number of todays. Job skills training. So having job role specific training, whether that's a couple hours, a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months, whatever. When you invest the time and energy in job specific training, even though you're hiring people that come to your firm with some sort of previous experience and skills, you still want them to learn how to do it your way, and use their talents and skills and knowledge the way your firm operates, right? You want just had a thought there. I was distracted myself looking at my own notes. You want them to start performing more quickly, even when they have that experience. Or you are hiring individuals who don't have experience or have a very narrow experience. So maybe it's you're hiring sales team members with a straight out of university or a very small amount of sales experience. Maybe it's a manufacturing operation where you're hiring people that don't have any previous manufacturing experience, but they're willing to work, put in the time, energy. Maybe you have an internal apprentice program, something like that. Maybe it's a medical facility. And while you're hiring people that are certified and have the legally required education and certifications to do whatever it is they're doing, they're maybe straight out of their training programs, whatever. Job skills training programs increase performance today. You hire them into the firm, they go through a great onboarding program, then they go into some sort of job specific type training. And again, across MBT Nation, there's all sorts of roles, all sorts of companies and needs out there, so that your job skills training is going to look different for everybody. So it could be, like I said, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, who knows? But having that is going to drive performance today. How do you improve performance today or build the organization for tomorrow? It's a very simple framework. Other things we might do to build performance today: ongoing development. Now, again, you're going to, at a certain point, you're going to cross the bridge between performance today and building for tomorrow. But in the purposes of this framework, we'll put ongoing development programs in that bucket. The first year, 15 months, 2 years of somebody's employment, how do you map out the right topics at the right time so that you can see those performance gains starting to happen in a structured, organized way? Having a curriculum that happens on a regular basis is a great way to drive performance today. And I'm not just talking like yearly certification type training, although that may be mandated through regulatory requirements or industry norms or what have you. I'm talking about a legitimate ongoing development program that is custom built, that helps your team continue to grow in terms of skills, and that, like I said, that's the right topics at the right time to really lever growth and excellence in whatever their roles might be. That's a great way to drive performance today. Maybe you're going to do some specialized one-off workshops instead of a full-blown program. You're going to, pull the team in and do some training on some sort of specialized topic. Maybe it's utilizing a specific piece of software. Maybe it's something to do with AI. Maybe it's something to do with leveraging all of the available knowledge that's out there. Maybe it's a topic that has really been a roadblock for your particular organization. So maybe you have a small organization and you need to do some customer service training. So you go grab a couple cool YouTube videos, you go grab a couple cool LinkedIn articles, you put together a little quick sort of half-day workshop on customer service, and you do something like that. But again, those targeted workshops fall in the how do we increase performance today bucket. Creativity sessions to resolve issues and problems. So maybe you have some sort of roadblock, some sort of obstacle, challenge. How can you do a structured workshop as a trainer to help people look at solving that problem in a creative way and use all the various creativity tools that are out there to help them overcome that problem or brainstorm possible solutions. Continuous improvement is another topic that would fall sort of loosely related to ongoing development, but maybe it's some continuous improvement workshops. Maybe it's a structured continuous improvement program that is tied to specific job roles. So certain job roles like production related leaders or supervisors, whatever, have to complete a structured continuous improvement curriculum, while you could also do standalone continuous improvement workshops where needed. So lots of different things fall under this bucket of how do we improve performance today. There's lots of other things that fall in that bucket as well, but those are, you know, over the last 10 minutes or so, rattled off a whole bunch of things, everything from onboarding to ongoing development, specialty workshops, job skills specific training, what have you. How do you improve performance today? You put in the specialty workshop buckets. Maybe you hire an outside speaker to come in for some targeted topic. Maybe it's the training element of a national meeting of some sort where you pull the entire team in and you really dive into some training associated to this specialty event, but it's all aimed at how do we improve performance for today. So you could do skills building. Say you have this nationwide event that also has some training in it. You do some skills building. You do some uh, role playing. You do some seminar simulations. You do some case study work. You really talk about industry trends, and then you do some training to prepare people for those industry trends that are already starting to happen in your organization. All part of how do we improve performance today? That's the first bucket. Lots of stuff in there, right? And lots of stuff that can keep a trainer or training team busy. And the all of that, whether it's creating and onboarding, it's building specialty workshops, building out the training piece of a attached to a national event, building an ongoing curriculum, that takes a lot of time and energy. Now, it doesn't need to be costly, cumbersome, or complicated by any means. And certainly we can support you, give you some advice, guidance, point you in the right direction. But it doesn't need to be cumbersome and overwhelming and complicated to set all of those things up. But it certainly takes time and energy. So that's bucket number one. How do we increase performance today? It's a way to think about how you organize the training material and content that you build. It's a way to go talk to leaders of the organization and ask what is the thing that's holding your team back from improved performance right now. Now, maybe that's not a training problem. That could be a people process systems issue, and training may not be appropriate for that. But training could be part of that. What's stopping us from performing today? Talking to field managers. What are the skills that people need to learn very, very quickly when they join the organization? Or what are the skills that if your team learned them in the first 6 months would set them up for 10 years of wild, uncontrolled success? So this framework, how do we improve performance today? It drives your analysis, putting the A in Eddie, it drives your analysis. It drives the conversations you have. It drives the networking efforts that you might have. So you might be thinking across the organization, onboarding as sort of a general approach. Everybody in the organization gets onboarded and they all complete this standardized program. Then they go to job skills specific training, but that job skills training looks different for different teams. Your key team that really drives revenue might get one type of training. A support team that has a very small number of people and it's a very specialized skill may have a very minimal job skills training, or maybe no job skills training and they're just doing specialty workshops as needed. There's lots of different ways to do this, but it drives who you need to partner with. If you have that key team that has this very high profile, important job skills training program for that team, because that team is so tied to revenue, cost, whatever, guess what? That's where you're going to spend a lot of your time and energy as a trainer. So, how do we improve performance for today? Now, the other bucket, how do we build the organization for tomorrow? How do we build the organization for tomorrow? And in corporate trainers, if you're out there and you're watching this, senior leaders in the organization aren't so worried about today. They're worried about somewhere down the road, couple years, maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe it's 10 years down the road. But they're thinking, what do I got to do to get over here in 10 years? Now, yes, that may show up as I have to do these things and build these conditions today to get 5 years down the road, but they're thinking in longer term implements or increments. They think in longer term increments than individual contributors typically do. Sometimes as individual contributors, you're just trying to survive till 5 o'clock so you can go home, right? Um, Maybe if you're in a team lead role, you're thinking a couple months or a couple weeks ahead of time. When you start to get into the, you know, director, vice president, CEO type ranks, you're thinking in a much larger time frame. So you're thinking, how do I build for that today? So, bucket number one, how do I improve performance today? Bucket number two in this framework, how do I build the organization for tomorrow or help build it? So, what are some different things that are going to fall in that bucket? Any sort of interviewing related training that you might do inside your organization? Uh, Setting standards for how you interview, giving basic interviewing tips. Uh, Maybe you have more elaborate training about how to conduct interviews depending on your organization. That builds for tomorrow. Yes, you're hiring for today's needs, but you can directly impact what's going to happen tomorrow because you can affect your retention by hiring not only for skills, but character in the short term. By hiring for skills and character in the short term, you are building the team for tomorrow. And that retention piece is so important. Now, again, as I said earlier, you can get a little too cutesy and pedantic and say, well, hiring today is improving performance for today. And yeah, okay, true, fine. We can get a little too fine of a point. But thinking about investing in interviewing training for your hiring managers, especially in those key teams, those key roles, but just as a general practice, is going to help you build that team for tomorrow. Leadership development, that's another build for tomorrow type thing. And you've got to think about leadership development in two ways: bottom up and top down. Because here's what'll happen: you've got your top senior leadership group or the leadership group that reports to the senior leader. It's easier to start with the bottom up, right? Let's do new manager training. Let's grab all of our younger managers and get them up to speed. Let's teach them all the important leadership stuff that fits the mission, vision, values of our organization. All really good stuff. Don't get me wrong. That's a logical starting point. I've done the exact same thing, and it makes total sense. The leadership programs I've built have all been geared starting as let's build from the bottom up. But if you don't build from the top down as well, you're going to get that misalignment. Because what will start to happen is this group, the younger managers, will start to learn skills, learn the direction of the organization, learn those valuable leadership skills, and they'll hone them and craft them in your great training because you're a certified no boring trainer. But if the senior leaders or the leaders that report to the senior leaders, if they don't line up to that, they're either going to derail that training. They're going to tell people, no, 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 don't worry about it. Over here, we do this. They're going to resist that training because now all of a sudden they have somebody on their team who is doing things maybe in a slightly different way. They are going to maybe undermine some of that training. So you got to make sure everything lines up. Now, senior leaders and the senior leadership team, do they need to sit through a basic level, what is emotional intelligence type session? Maybe yes. A lot of times, maybe yes. They they don't necessarily need to sit to the you're a first time manager type level courses. But if they're excluded from the whole leadership development piece and all you're just assuming that they're all great, wonderful leaders with all the great, basic, wonderful leadership skills, you are definitely setting yourself up for that misalignment. Now, that gets into kind of the next topic of how do we build for tomorrow and how, as certified no boring trainers, can we help the organization build for tomorrow beyond just sort of regular ongoing leadership development training? You know, are we conducting strategy alignment workshops? Have we built and launched and facilitated strategy alignment workshops where you bring in those senior leaders or any leader really who needs to build a strategy and take them through a structured, guided process so that by the end of the workshop, they have a completely created strategy. In other words, they have the define their goals and objectives. They've defined how they're going to measure success. They defined the training needed, if any training is needed to execute on that strategy. They've outlined risks and risk management, risk mitigation practices. They've got their communication plan all dialed in and figured out. They've got this fully evolved strategy, who in the organization needs to be partnered with, what are the dependencies, all of the bits and bobs that go into a strategy. Are you doing strategy alignment workshops with those senior leaders? Again, they may not have to sit through some basic level, so you're a manager now type training, but are you conducting some of that strategy alignment workshops and guiding them through a process? Are we doing goals defining or objective and key results if your company uses that system? Are we doing goals development and goals definition workshops where instead of like a strategy, so this is a new product launch and here's our strategy for that, or we're overhauling the sales team and here's our strategy for that, instead of a workshop to do that, are we doing workshops to help leaders at all levels define clear goals that are obtainable, actionable, aspirational, time bound, all the things for goal setting? Are we doing workshops to walk leaders through how to plan effective goals and how to set goals, how to work collaboratively across the organization so this team's goals line up with this team's goals? Maybe that's its own separate workshop. That's a huge part of building for tomorrow. Are we doing creativity sessions to create future goals? So maybe you have a team that's just doing a great job. They're absolutely nailing everything. Do some creativity sessions to help them then elevate and come up with the next round of goals. Goal attainment and setting the right goals and the right measurements and the right key performance indicators and all of those pieces. If you've ever been involved in that process, and I certainly have, you know how critically important it is to choose the right goals in the first place. And so many leaders, myself included, get it wrong from time to time. The goal is to get it right way more often than we get it wrong. And if we as trainers can help with a workshop that guides a leader, new, experienced, junior, senior, doesn't matter, a workshop to guide them through a process with workbooks and templates and that are particular to your organization. And by the end of that workshop, they have a work product. Here's your goal, here's your objectives, here's your KPIs, here's what you need to do to get this thing launched, blah, 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 whatever. Or like I said, the strategy workshop that I mentioned a while ago. Those are great ways to help build the organization for tomorrow. So are we improving performance today, or are we helping build the organization for tomorrow? That's a really simple framework to think about. Where do you need to spend your time as a corporate trainer? So many corporate trainers are overworked and overwhelmed, not given enough resources. You have one person designing, developing, delivering training for 500 people, and they have their one or two programs, and that's all they have time to do. So leaders, you might need to think about, I'm not saying run out and add head count, but if you're wanting, if you have somebody stuck on that hamster wheel and you're wanting to move your organization forwards, well, guess what? You can't do that if you've got this one person who has no bandwidth left to put together some of these things. As trainers, as you think about how you interface with leaders, especially mid and senior level leaders, you need to start asking the question, what's keeping you up at night? What worries you about getting to where you want to be in 5 years or 10 years? What's the biggest roadblock or obstacle you see? What's the condition you need to create today to help you get to where you try that again? What's the condition you need to create today to help you get where you need to be tomorrow? Those are the types of questions and discussions and conversations you could be encouraging, fostering, facilitating as a certified no boring trainer that's going to help you get a lot of great information. And as soon as that senior leader says, well, we have to create blah, blah, blah type of condition, we have a lot of risk averse leaders. And if we're going to really exponentially grow, we have to take calculated and reasonable, but we have to take more risks. So guess what? Now, as a trainer, I have to do a whole series of different trainings in different ways to help leaders learn how to take calculated, reasonable, sound risks. This is also going to help you as a trainer to think about, where do you need to level up? Where do you need to grow? So, in other words, if you spend your life in onboarding, nothing wrong with that. Onboarding, super duper valuable. But if you spend your life in an onboarding program and doing sort of compliance level training and culture training and introducing everybody to the organization, you might need to back away a little bit and spend some time studying the organization as a whole. Not only will that help you with onboarding, but that will help you to start to recognize, what do we need to build for the future? What do we need to build to support the growth of the company in the future? But if you're spending all your time in onboarding, you might never get to that. So be thinking about, if you want to graduate from how do we improve performance today to how do we build for tomorrow, well, then you need to start putting time in different places, not only studying your organization, studying market trends, studying competitors, studying future trends in business world, period. Meeting with not only field level managers, field level managers have a really, really tough job, and I have mad respect. I was a regional sales manager for quite some time, almost 10 years, and it's a tough gig, regardless of whether it's sales or not. The field level manager's tough role. You are trapped between the individual contributors in the front line and the senior leaders, and ain't none of them ever happy with you. You're always stuck in the middle. Talk to those field level managers. They're going to tell you how to improve performance today because they have sort of a tactical lens, but they can start to point you in a direction for how to build for tomorrow as well, because they can tell you about market trends. They can tell you about people, process, systems issues in the organization. They can clue you in on the breakdown of people, process, system in the organization. And while that may not be a training problem or solution, you can at least be communicating that across the organization. So the simple framework, is our training increasing performance today, or is it building the organization for tomorrow? As trainers, it can help us on where we need to grow, where we need to develop, what we need to understand more so that we can accomplish that outcome. So there you have it, NBT Nation. It's a random Wednesday pop-up live. Are we building, as corporate trainers, are we building performance for today, or are we improving performance for today, or are we building the organization for tomorrow? Really super simple framework to help you kind of think about all of these different topics that we've been going over here in the last 20, 30 minutes. Think about, where do you spend more of your time? Are you in one bucket more so than the other? Think about the resources you have. And I'm not talking about go to your leader and ask for a $1 billion budget. But if you have a $0 budget and you need to do more of these different things, you may want to be really careful and think about, okay, I need to do these things. I need some software tools, or I need some AI tools to help me produce content more quickly, or I need whatever. Maybe you need to contract out to some of the L&D professionals around the world to be able to help you build this content. So maybe you need to partner up with some instructional designers and pay some contract instructional designers, like my good friend eLearning Bestie. Shout out to her. So you need to think about budget. You need to think about your personal skill set. So, I have built, planned, built, and delivered uh, almost all these things on this list. Haven't done too many continuous improvement sessions. I'll be very honest with that. Very familiar with Lean, very familiar with Kaizen and those sorts of things, but at a surface type level. But everything else, I've built interviewing workshops, I've built leadership development programs. I'm currently building some strategy alignment sessions, and I certainly know how to build a strategy to begin with from previous job roles. I've built and managed onboarding programs. I've built a number of different job skills training programs, built out ongoing development curriculum, specialty workshops all over the place. I've organized and managed and help the team with the training piece at large events. That's taken a lot of time. And fortunately, I've been very fortunate through various different means to be able to do lots of those different little things. Maybe in your organization you're just sort of doing the one thing, so it's a chance for you to kind of explore and grow and level up there. It's also a chance to think about, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, if you're a one person show and you're wanting to do more of these things, there's only so many hours in a day. How are you going to get a little bit more help, or how are you going to spread the workload? What does your organization need? Not every organization has 5,000 people and all of this incredible need. Maybe you're a small chain of retail stores with 4 locations. Okay, well, maybe you don't need some elaborate leadership development strategy alignment workshop. But do you need a quick onboarding program for the clerks that work for you, or do you need some specialty workshops on customer service type things, or loss prevention, or who knows? So, just some different things to think about as we wrap up here. So, thank you, NBT Nation, for joining me for a random pop up live. As always, you can get a lot more content free and paid at noboringtraining.com, where we've got all sorts of resources, both for trainers themselves and leaders of organizations, to understand how to get results, not yawns, from their training. So be sure to visit noboringtraining.com, and that's where you can find a copy of The Hard Truths of Becoming a Certified No Boring Trainer. A bunch of I've almost forgotten the tagline now. It's 60 pages, 20 infographics, 20 hard truths, 15 infographics. It's a downloadable PDF for less than the price of a cup of coffee. It's going to give you 20 hard truths that are going to help you become a certified no boring trainer, and not just get up and word vomit on top of everybody. So be sure to visit noboringtraining.com. Enough for the commercials. NBT Nation, I hope you're doing great out there. Let me know what you think. Leave me some comments down below. Does this framework make sense? Will this help you to do the things I've talked about here? Let me know down in the chat, and we'll see you on the next one.